We have a new guest in the studio. He's a man from Washington, D.C., USA, but he's a Kenyan. He's here. We've talked to him several times before online. Before we welcome and introduce him, today's proverb again, CT.
Yes, from the country of Mozambique.
Hey.
A man does not run among the thorns for no reasons. Either he's chasing a snake or a snake is chasing him.
Either he's chasing a snake or a snake is chasing him.
Yes. The game changer here is the thorns. Because with just the running, for all you know, they may, as I've said, they may perhaps just be running in the same direction at the same time.
Yeah.
Coincidentally.
Yeah.
But the moment there are thorns, you've cast caution to the winds.
Yep.
And now you simply need to move away from whatever it is that's threatening you as far as possible. And damn the thorns. You will simply keep moving forward.
It's the fight or flight, the flight part. This is it. It is take off.
Yes.
Please take off. Or it's a fight part. You're running after the snake because you're kuja hapa, nasema nini. Danson Mukile is a Kenyan IT expert and policy strategist who is a resident of Washington, D.C., USA. We've talked to him several times before from Washington via video link, talking about issues of diaspora and diaspora relations. Now he's with us live in studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu Kenya.
Asante Bwana Latif.
Yeah?
Yes.
How long have you been in the country now?
About 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's quite an experience.
Yeah, quite an experience.
Yeah.
Explain,
so many
what does that mean?
changes. When I was here, there was no
Expressway.
the expressway. Now it is more of your LA. You feel it's really when I was just even telling people that Kenya is really moving very far. Yeah.
You can feel it.
You can feel it if you can have this kind of infrastructure in place. The trajectory is really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Of course, you knew about it because you follow a lot of what's happening around the country, and you knew from the moment the contract was signed to construct the expressway to the moment the president commissioned it, to the moment the president launched it. You knew about it, and Kenyans talking about it, and us guys complaining about the mess that was left below. Below ground.
Yeah.
But you're here because the times that we've talked to you, we've been talking about the diaspora and how Kenyans living and working outside of Kenyan borders have been contributing. Now, we've just seen the latest statistics from CBK, 500 billion shillings contributed in a year by Kenyans working abroad. This is more than all the others combined.
Yeah.
And multiplied by 2. So you are actually the biggest foreign exchange earner for this country.
Yes.
You who send money back home. You who want to interact with your family that you've left back home. Yeah. Now you've been organizing yourselves and saying we want to participate some more in how affairs are run in the country, in how the government is run, in how our people are getting services. Of course, that was heard by the new administration. They have set up a State Department for Diaspora Affairs. What do you think of that? So far, with the work that the State Department has been doing so far?
I think they are doing quite a good job. So far, they are engaging all other stakeholders. And I'll just say that the almost 500 billion we have contributed with has been done with zero policy. There has never been any diaspora policy on remittances. So with now the new administration and our suggestion on changes in the policy to make us contribute more, I think the request the president has asked the diasporians of sending about 1 trillion, it can be achieved. So there are various ways, including introducing the repatriation savings, whereby right now if I have $1 billion in US and I want to bring it in Kenya, it's quite a process. So there's some limitation on how we can bring our savings, and that's an area I think the State Department is working, with KRA. KRA is trying to develop policies around the remittances, because like it's a new game, we were focusing on FDIs, and FDIs they're kind of
FDIs.
Oh, foreign direct investment.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
America akisema FDI unafikiri ni FBI.
That's what I heard.
It's bringing the FBI.
Yeah, now we have we call them the DDIs. That's Diaspora Direct Investment.
Right.
So it's like now changing the whole system. And I think we are leading the East Africa region for the remittances. And Nigeria is the one actually leading for the whole continent. Yeah.
Let's break this down per month. Let's look at what happened in December. And this is December 2022. Diaspora remittances to Kenya hit an all-time high of $350 million. That was in December, which equals 39.7 billion. That was in December. And then we saw in November that we're looking at 36.2 billion. So now this is an understanding of how progressively we got to that. In the year 2022, Kenyans were sending back this money. The majority of this amount comes from the United States, and it's split Germany, the UK, etc., etc. Now, when you talk about saying we've been requested to double this number, this money that's being sent home, it's not as though everything you earn, and using yourself as an example, plus people in the circles that we've spoken to, it's not as though everything you earn is now then being sent back home. I mean, you're still all right, isn't it? You're still living life. You're still making life happen. So this is actually money that you're sending back home, and you're still able to live comfortably. Yeah. So that says a lot.
Yeah.
In what form is this money coming home? I mean, it's not just money that's being sent to relatives and things like that, but what form is this money coming back to Kenya?
So right now, I think we are utilizing the fintech, the digital system that have been set up. For example, we have various there are ways we send, but majorly through the M-Pesa.
No. I mean,
yeah.
Are people buying homes? Are people buying land?
Oh, okay.
Are people supporting their families? Are people setting up businesses with this money? How is it then being realized in the country?
So I think that is an area we need to do research, because as much as we are sending, we'll collect data that money is coming in. But the impact of that remittances has not been done so well. From my own experience, as a person who has been sending money, majority has been going to the education sector. So supporting our family in schools, paying for their school fees, and also the medical part of it. So you realize that we don't have a specific area that has the research. Then how is this remittances? Which sector is it impacting? If it is education, how do we make it much better? And that is when now we have the State Department that's now going to look at that particular area on how specifically, when Danson sends $100, which area is he targeting? If we have 1 million Dansons doing the same, which area? And also in specific country, US, what are they targeting in Kenya? UK, what do they normally? So it's an area that hasn't been done research. We don't have specific data for that so far.
So when the request is that this 500 billion, please, diasporans, let it become $1 trillion, what is that request accompanied by? That this is what then we will do for you? Well, I mean, or how can we make it easier for you? Or then how can we safeguard if it's savings or things like that? When the request is made, is it accompanied by?
For example, when the president visited in Washington, D.C., he shared his housing plan, the housing program he has, and he encouraged us to buy homes, So that is a way we can focus, because if he's giving us that opportunity that we can buy homes through the government, I'm not a victim, but many of my friends are victims of being,
Ghost homes.
proud, unaonyesha ile ya jirani, but there's nothing going on. So now that is an area he has set up, it brings trust among people. I will know that I'm working with the government. They have these houses ready. So if I send my remittances specifically for houses, it's something they have done for us. So we have so many incentives that they'll be focusing on, maybe the specific project, and also they are looking at the bonds, also the diaspora bonds. So that's also an area that we really encourage us to send money. Then also the services. We are human, and in the diaspora we go through issues. Issues in specific country. The issues in US, they are a bit different from the issues in Saudi. So we have seen now the government is taking action And it's not just one person. You see the CS from Labour, the CS from Foreign Diaspora Affairs coming and listening to us and trying to sort out issues. So it will encourage me, if I'm receiving the government services, then I'll freely send my money back home in that specific sector.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whenever you talk about the role that the diaspora plays, and you have a specific peg, in this case it's the amount of money, and you ask yourself the simple question, when we look at the emphasis that is given to the creation of a ministry and what the ministry is supposed to do, much as we laud the idea that we have a State Department for diaspora, I'm beginning this by saying that we actually ought to have had a complete, not a State Department, a ministry. Because if there is no other ministry, whether it's agriculture, you just name it, whether it's mining, whichever ministry we have in this country, and people with all the resources they have do not generate the sort of money the diaspora produces, then everything that we're saying here in terms of understanding how to harness this, understanding how this can best be placed so that it can actually help the economy propel in the direction we want, that won't happen. A State Department is inadequate. It needs to be a fully fledged ministry. Now, that having been said, if you had a ministry, then what that would also mean is that the representation that we have in terms of a desk or a position in our various embassies would also come into being. So this idea of being able to connect directly with the country, should we say, would, in my opinion, would become infinitely easier. Okay. Now, if that were to happen, do you think that that particular step would then make it possible for the 1 trillion shilling target that you mentioned? Would it make it easier, or would it help bring that reality of the 1 trillion shilling closer?
I agree with you. If you look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and I'm so proud that I was part of the conversation for diaspora manifesto, the first one is create ministry for diaspora. However, the president and his wisdom, started doing engagements, and we realized that it's a dream that will come to reality, and he gave us an option of the State Department, which we really appreciate, because as a child, when you ask your father, give me this one, he'll analyze and say, ni gani nitaanza nayo, as much as I'm going to give everything. So he looked at various ways, including the budget, and also, as we speak, Muga, we don't have any legislation for the diaspora. We have zero. So it will be so hard to start off, the ministry without zero legislation. So those one need to be put into place. But it is going to happen. We are going to have, because we cannot be the first foreign exchange earner from the diaspora, and our issues cannot be put. We just, it will happen, I'm very sure.
You know why I'm asking you this? You're telling me about the impossibilities. And I'm wondering, why are there impossibilities? Why is there? We legislate for everything, even the direction in which ants walk on a cold day. Okay? Why are you telling me that it is not that because the legislation has not taken place? Really? Legislation. If the intent was there, don't you think, given the sort of money we're talking about, that this is one of those things that could have been fast-tracked?
So I will say that the previous administrations, they didn't give attention to the diaspora so
They
much.
ignored it completely. You're being
completely
polite. They just took it for granted and assumed the money is coming and that's good enough.
Yeah, but now, the current one, led by the president, he has listened to us. He has sent his team to us. He's, actually, when we heard that during the campaign, I was interviewed, and then you asked me, these politicians, they just say things, will they really make it? I said, when I listen to the President William Ruto, he's quite different. And I told you, he's going to do it. Now we have a State Department. Now we have a committee for diaspora affairs and workers, something that wasn't there. So with these positive things we have seen from the administration, I think other will be actualized.
I'm a dog with a bone on this one. Huh?
Yeah.
Recently, the president asked Parliament to fast-track a certain process, that of creating the office of the opposition. Okay?
Yeah.
told Parliament specifically, we'd like this because I'd like my government to be put in check. I'd like a check and balance. I want this sort of thing done because it's good for the country. The point I'm making is simple, and then I will not repeat it again. And that is, if there is a will to get something done, okay, we are used to things not being done. So when a step is made in the right direction, we laud the process, but we assume it is a wonderful thing, and yet it is not quite what we wanted.
City. Yeah. Why are you so frustrated?
You see,
there's a ministry of diaspora.
I am looking.
Let's start from there. There's a ministry of diaspora now. Okay, it has a minister, it has a PS, it has officers working under it. It has a mandate and a clear role, and it has begun developing a policy on diaspora affairs, upon which legislation will be hinged and programs are going to be hinged. That is already a progress, something in progress. Why are you not happy?
It's not a question of unhappiness. It's a question of dissatisfaction.
Why are you dissatisfied?
The dissatisfaction comes about as a result of this. I am looking at a goose that lays very many golden eggs really quickly.
Chop, chop.
And I'm looking at the slow process, because it is slow in my head, of trying to harness so that this goose doesn't just lay eggs. It lays eggs that produce other gooses or geese.
So what do you hope to have seen in the last 120 days?
I'm pegging it on the same mantra, the process that we have followed in trying to create an office of the opposition.
Which nothing has happened so far. Is that
you've gotten my point exactly.
He has written to to Parliament. The Speaker has told committees, please guys, look at this thing, let's discuss. They have not yet started discussing. The policy is under development.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's on its first term.
No. You see, no. Again, forgive me if I sound negative, but I really am not impressed with mere words and statements that things are being done. It doesn't do much for me because we hear too much of it. It's all over the place, and it's all over the place on very many important issues. Now, this is not something, it's not an aspirational process. This is something that we are seeing. The benefit is clear. It's so clear. Even if you're blind, you can see it. So the efforts that are being made can't be the mundane, normal efforts we make towards things that we want done. It has to be something that even you look at and say, hey, here,
something.
Man, this one, this one.
It's like a stop press, like government halt everything.
Yes.
All of you come
more
to
or
this
less,
room.
let's focus on this
We're
thing.
discussing this thing.
Yes, because this thing here, even as we're talking about all these many things, this thing is doing something great for us and has the potential of giving us the sort of money we keep talking about, and yet it exists. So why don't we channel our energy so that we actually realize and harvest and harness the full benefits of it? That is really what I'm saying.
Has there been done some organized meeting between this State Department for Diaspora Affairs and any organization of Kenyans abroad? Like, do you know whether Kenyans in Denmark or Kenyans in Europe have been told, all right, the PS, Rosalind Jogu, is coming on this day, and she'll come with a team, and she'll want to pick your views on issues 1, 2, 3, 4, and then from there she'll cross over the pond to America. She'll meet Kina Danson and the others. She'll listen to this, and then she'll pass by the Middle East. She'll have. Is there such a?
Yeah. So
because that's what cities say. I mean, if there was something like that, then you can say things are happening.
So you realize that when the PS was appointed, immediately the president had a trip to the US. She accompanied him. So that was like her first maiden trip as the PS. She met
orientation.
Yeah. she met us. She interacted with the different because diaspora has many organizations. So many. We don't have like a united umbrella, of which we are really working on uniting ourselves under one umbrella. But it's a really long conversation.
We don't have one party in Kenya. Why do you want to have one party in the diaspora?
Sure.
Wait, when you talk of it's not like a political party.
Yeah. Even borders don't have one association. But even Matatu is doing the same route.
There's a similar thread of understanding that
even
runs
Uber.
through.
Yeah. Okay.
As in
So she has been
those
there.
Ubers.
So she has been there. She started there. She met us. We had a conversation. But you see, she was appointed Then she left the country. Now she came back, she's like putting her house in order. Remember, this is a whole new department.
Okay.
So she's organizing. I'm very sure she'll be out. She'll be coming to us in various parts of the country.
Can we take those markets where we're seeing these large numbers coming from? And unfortunately, it looks as though, it's after the money, but the money is actually the major driver of this conversation as per why it's happening in the manner in which it is. Because then it gives way to development, so many other things then can happen as a result of it. So we focus on those markets, the US, the UK, Germany, Australia, and then in some small part, the Netherlands.
And South Africa.
And South Africa. Do you have, even if it is one man, there is a Danson here, there's another one here, for whom this is very clear, for whom there is clarity, who has been appointed, just like we're talking about the associations of different groups, just take the border borders this is an example, that if there is one person from an association in Githurai comes to Nairobi, somebody comes from Machakos, they've all come with a similar thread of thinking in mind. So as the CS is putting her house in order, on this other side, for who understands where the prickly thorns are, who understands what it is that everybody needs, is the house in order on this side? Because without it, we'll be having this conversation for the next 4 years until somebody else comes in. And it's too important a thing to let slide. So on the side of as government is trying to figure out what they're doing, is this other side ready with everything that's needed? Or when they come and say, okay guys, actually we've put the office in place, now let's get going, and then people are going to start fumbling about, okay, actually, what, because it's really, really important. The people with the highest vested interest ought to be the most prepared, and that's the simple question, that on this side, even if it's from the different markets, is there clarity of purpose?
Yeah, so it is. I think it's clear. The conversation began with us.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones who approached the government. Mm-hmm. It's not the way other around.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
We told them that, we told the president that this is what we want. This is what we have been doing for the country, and we want this. So we have our own internal structures in the diaspora, although in various organizations, of course. And each structure or each organization is trying to reach out to the State Department, presenting their views. So I'll say it's still, it's a new baby. We are trying to structure it, and of course we know we are heading to. We really want to bring more money in Kenya, and also take our family and friends out. Because there's a lot of joblessness here in Kenya. So we're also structuring ourselves out there. And now that the whole conversations, now we have our own State Department, we have our own bridge. So we are very excited that we are going to do more. And you need to know that this money that we send home, majority, as you say, 55% comes from the US. And the jobs people do there, the majority who send support to their families, they're not like professional jobs.
Right.
These guys will be home care or caregivers. They'll be doing long distance trucks, those odd jobs, and they send home. So the hustlers there, now I told the guys that we have hustlers in diaspora. They're like, no,
not possible.
The hustlers there, whatever they're sending back home, they need to receive services that the government is also offering.
Sure.
There's no need for me, when I'm sending money to support my family, for example, school,
yes,
and then the policies that are put in education, they're not helping that person.
Yeah.
For example, you're talking about, globalization of our education. Your friend finish or your family finish a degree here, but when it comes to US, that degree is
not relevant.
So we need also that one structured in a way that let that country we live in recognize also what we do here.
And that needs to come from here.
All right, let's take a break, a minute-made break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Conversation continues with Danson Mukile, IT expert and policy strategist based in Washington, USA, who's also among the leaders of Kenyans in the diaspora. He's here with us in the studio. We're talking about how else Kenyans in the diaspora can be engaged with the government. How else we can actually look at increasing the diaspora remittances for the benefit of the country as well. So the president says, if you're doing this, you can actually double it. And now that's why we're talking at looking at modalities of getting that to increase. One of those would be getting more Kenyans out there. We have very many Kenyans who are in country, who are trained, who have a skill, who could go and work in all these other countries where the rest of you work. How do you think the government can facilitate more Kenyans going to live and work abroad?
So there are various ways the government can do, and this should be specific by each country, because each country has their own, labor laws and regulations. And from the diaspora, we know the demand. For example, the US and maybe extension Canada, healthcare is one of the areas that is in need of labor. So one of the challenges has been our nurses, when they train here, they need a qualification exam. It's called NCLEX. This center is in South Africa and in Mumbai. From those agencies who have been, trying to help these individuals to get this training, they spend almost 700K, almost $1 million, so that they can do that exam.
Just to do the exam?
To do the exam. Then we start on the process of getting them out. So this is an area that we have engaged, telling the leaders in various ministries, for example, the healthcare, that let us have this center here in Nairobi. We are able to do it. If we have that center set up here to be serving East and Central Africa, the process is going on. I'm so happy that the Ministry, of Health has taken it up. They are working so hard to make sure that, things go well. It was still actually going on.
What does it take to get the centers here?
So, because it's a private entity, we have to engage the direct people, the owners. They are based in UK. So the ministry will be now engaging them and finding ways, because they have their own requirements that the country has to meet, and also the facility will be set up. Then once that one has been, accomplished and set up ready, then we'll be now enrolling. And these nurses can start enrolling to do this exam. It's also a long exam, and once they go, what we have been telling the ministry is that if we have someone who qualifies, before they get opportunity outside there, they can, their salary, maybe they can do some adjustment what they earn in the country, because they are ready for international. So labor preparation has to be done to meet the international market. Yeah. So they need to find ways which specific country, their needs, and which labor they can train for that specific country. Yeah.
Do you see a situation, or rather, how would a situation play out in which, if we're saying the State Department has been set up, which it has, then there are different, levels. So you're dealing with remittances, you're also dealing with job opportunities, whereby there are agreements from, like you say, country specific, one country to another. Do you see an instance whereby it could be seamless? Of course, there are issues having to do with traveling documents and things like that. But it could be seamless, where country X has an agreement with Kenya, and we say, look, we need this. We need a skilled labor force. Kenya has more than enough in terms of human resource that are skilled, that maybe just need to, whatever it is that they're looking for in terms of passing a requirement. Can it then be a seamless process whereby Kenyans are doing the work, and you still see those numbers rack up in the way that a government would want it to be? Can it be seamless? Having lived on the other side and still living there and working there, can it be seamless?
Yeah, it can be seamless. It can work out. But if I was to use the United States as an example, this is a whole continent with various states. So the approach should not be like the whole country. We can narrow down to specific state. Like the needs of a state called Idaho could be quite different from Maryland state. So if we narrow down to specific state and look at what they are the needs, what I like about the US, their data is normally public. They release it to people to read, and so they can make decisions out of it. So I think that's an area that can be seamless, so that we can know the state of Massachusetts. They are looking at Kenya and say, the government of Kenya give us 1,000 nurses or give us 1,000 teachers. So it can be possible, and we have agencies there. Kenyans are very smart. As they have set up agencies or organizations that the government can tap. So it is just the government how they can approach us and say, I run a group home. I have 200 of them. I'm certified by the state or and I want to, I've been told I can hire
from my country, for example.
Okay. So you have that. The government will be like, if you have Kenyans who are in the US, they have this business, can you guys give them a leeway, as the government of US, they can bring our people in for that specific I think this is a discussion the president will be having, with the US. Yeah, so it is possible. It can be seamless. Yeah.
We have agencies in this country, for example, the National Employment Authority and the others, the Ministry of Labor itself. And much as we talk about all policy this, policy the other, we, at the back of our minds, we also remind ourselves that we're talking about Kenyans. And Kenyans who are in positions of authority and therefore positions of opportunity. That's what they look at. Many of the accusations that have, for example, been leveled against what's happening in the Middle East is these agencies that are taking people to, to go and work in the Middle East. Who are the owners? Who are the persons behind these agencies? Why are these agencies, some of them, operating in such a shadowy manner? And allegations are rife that some of these people are well connected with the people who are in authority, people who should be oversighting this process. So, as a diaspora, I think it's about also you making sure that you keep a spotlight on the individuals who are in office in these positions of authority to know what else they're involved in. Because it's just one bad apple and they spoil everything. Just one bad apple, one farmer trying to export immature avocados led to threat of the entire avocado market for Kenya being cancelled just because of such. So it's the same kind of thing. Now, I know you talked about, the diaspora, we are many, we are not organized, but those that are, even as you talk about waiting for the government to do this and the other, I think it's also about time that you tell us about how those in the diaspora are organizing to have a proper check and balance for people who are in the diaspora and how they're engaging with Kenyans back home in terms of looking for opportunities and how they're engaging with the government. So that it's clear that there's a proper check and balance on what's happening.
Yeah, what I can say, in the diaspora, we have also the opposition. And it's very rough, especially you utilize the media, it's super rough. They are doing that, they saw us campaigning for the president, and they believe we are in government that this time. So the checks and balances there in the diaspora, they are doing the same, although it is not a structured one, you'll say, but it is existing. And when you talked about the agencies, it is true we have those who are spoiling the broth, We have those ones who are making the diaspora, especially the Middle East, be like inhabitable for Kenyans. So there are few. What you have realized is there are not many. But now that the president is on them and, he has given instructions that you need to remove them so they don't sell Kenyan name in a bad way, I think the changes are going to happen. And even last week, I think you saw the PS and the CS for Labor in the Middle East, and they went even for the first time, you'll see a government official going to that holding facility, the shelter in Sakana. We have so many Kenyans, maybe from distress. It's a progress, it's everything that is noted, but those steps, the conversation is going on. I think the steps are going to make it happen, but we just encourage, especially there's a request from the PS that those people who are in the Middle East, if they can go to that Sakana place, can go there, they'll receive the services there. I think it's in public domain. So as much as you want to be helped, unasaidia mwenye pia anajisaidia. If you blame, but you're don't want to be part of the solution, then you never get a solution to anything.
You know what leads us to perhaps sometimes give prominence to some of these complaints that we speak of is we do take a leaf from countries like India, Philippines, people who have policies that actually encourage this very same thing we're talking about. They structure it. There's a framework within which it works. And so, yes, problems will arise. There are always individuals who want to do some crazy things. Those exceptions are always there. And what you're saying is encouraging in that the government sees the need and you can visibly see beyond the talk steps being taken.
Yeah.
But you see, the proof of this particular pudding is when more and more results start coming in of positivity. See, the Middle East has many issues, but they're not the only place that we have Kenyans in.
Yeah.
Why is it that we don't hear all these problems coming from the US? Why don't we hear them from Canada? Why don't we hear them from the UK?
Or
Why the Middle
Uganda?
East? Yes, or Tanzania or South Africa. Why specifically the Middle East? So there must be some problem there.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I am saying that for the problem to have arisen to the point where it's in the public domain and it's as loud as we hear it, this wrong thing that is now manifesting has been there for a long time. It's just now it's gotten to a point where it's just coming out. Okay? Now, some of those issues, individuals can't sort out, even if they wanted to. The government has to be involved very, very directly and very, very deliberately. And yes, it is true. Baby steps are being taken. But what I was saying earlier on is that this isn't an issue that requires baby steps. It requires strides. Because the individual efforts, as we see them, is what has led to people being out of the country anyway. Okay? Because there was no government policy about these things. Now, when you then structure it, again, I said I won't belabor the point, so I won't. So I'll leave that statement. Yes. But what the organizations in the diaspora are doing is good. The issue of speaking with one voice, that is always a work in progress. Because even within political parties that are known to be strong, there are diverging voices. That diversity is what makes these organizations strong.
Yeah.
Yes. Because there'll be one group that is good at doing this, there'll be one that is good at doing the other. Not very long ago, we had a gentleman who is head of a diaspora caucus. And he told us that the things that he does, he is trained, certified, and he's the sort of person who enables long truck drive. If you're a truck driver, like if I'm tired of talking to people every day and I want to be a truck driver in the US, he's the sort of guy I need to talk to. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, that's a speciality. Yes, he's working on it, but imagine just how that could be harnessed with what you just said. A structure where we know people who want to be in this line of business, this is the path that you follow. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
And that it's nestled here in Nairobi or here in Kenya, so that process is clear.
Danton, I almost hear CT saying kind of like, there's so many things that can be running parallel to waiting for government to sort out this. That there's so many things that can be running. There's so many things that can be done that can, even kickstart this process, even of solving this joblessness issue on this side. And then having structured programs that run already. So when government finally gets its ducks in a row and is able to pick up on this thing, they have processes that are already running. So theirs is just to plug in and say, all right, then let's governmentalize this thing.
Yes, give it that last mile push that only the government has the might to do.
But they've already found something that's moving,
I'll use an example of nursing.
Yeah.
We have, as you say, we have Kenyans who are already doing this. They have agencies there. They normally get nurses from here, but the only challenge they'll get is Gigiri, the embassy. They'll have we have a lot of backlogs, but they go through the whole process. But the backlog of visas become a problem. So it is existing. We have the structures that is going on in different niches of the government programs. So now it's just the government to plug in, as you said, and say, guys, like I'll give an example of healthcare. These are things we've already told the CS that this is what is going on. These Kenyans are taking Kenyans, they are bringing Kenyans in the US or UK or in Europe. Now we just need this area to be sorted. Yeah. engage the government to government and so this, then it. So it is going on, and we're just hoping even other Kenyans in the diaspora, they'll be tapping in different areas, But sometimes people, because of the trust we have with the government, some people will be like, serikali ni ile tu, So just even telling them, guys, things are, steps are being worked on for the first time since 1963. There has never been this kind of conversation about the diaspora. We just be like, watume. Even the services you receive at the airport, it's quite, they don't even recognize. Unachukuliwa tu hivi. But those are things, we are putting into place that let us be treated. We don't require a lot of things. Someone just want even a treatment. Even when you come from the diaspora, we are having our own functions. We want to invite our leaders. I run a charity home in Machakos. I've been funding it. I've been sending millions of shillings there. I'm inviting you to attend this function that I'm running as a leader. You understand? So those small things that the diasporians want, I think they can be accomplished, and that one encourages more to participate, because we have Kenyans who are really funding so many orphanages here, funding, supporting so many groups in the country, and they are never recognized by the government. So, and all they need is just like, a Danson organization is here, it is doing this in Trans Nzoia County, this and this. So I think these are things will be sorted out as we go. We have it. We have Kenyans who have been developing these policies for quite some time. It is existing, but just need the plug-in of the government.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you talk about foreign aid, the hoops we jump through to ensure that IMF or whoever it is, whether it's South Korea or North Korea, whoever it is who seems to
have some cash.
Yes, and is agreeable to letting us have it. We make all sorts of concessions and allow them to do all sorts of things. This is what the diaspora does.
Yeah.
They're actually helping the government in its services, which it is mandated to provide for its citizens. Now, such a partner is a powerful partner. This is really what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't see the government jumping through the hoops. I see them going through processes that government normally goes through. They start with many, many stories. Okay, then small steps follow, but stories. Okay, and I'm saying these hoops, because when they jump hoops for IMF, World Bank, and all these people, it's not stories. Things are done. Okay.
Yeah.
It's those hoops that I want to see.
You want to see those ones?
Yes, those are the hoops I want to see.
Remember, the South Same government, it treats those Kenyans abroad as Kenyans here.
Yeah.
Kenyans abroad are contributing 500 billion shillings a year. Kenyans here are contributing 2 trillion shillings in the form of taxes. Do you see the government jumping the hoops for the one who's raising 2 trillion shillings?
I don't see them jumping the hoops, and you, my man, you've understood this thing perfectly and taken it to its logical conclusion. That's really it. The government should be jumping through the hoops and treating us like the royalty we are, because we treat them very well.
We give them a lot of money.
We treat them really well. We don't even give them problems.
Now we are going to allow them to spend 3.6 trillion shillings in the next financial year.
Yes.
You do what you want to do. How much?
That's what we do. And we're just asking for a few things here and there. Make sure this is possible. We have medicine when we look for it.
Yeah.
Schools are affordable. Okay. The cost of things. These are small things we ask in exchange for this huge amount of money that we give them.
Yeah. I would say the diasporians can really run a lot of things in the country. If the things we are asking the government to be done, there's no sector the diaspora cannot touch. For example, we are talking about just even seeing one thing that you are shared with when you're preparing the document. You said, why can't we see the diaspora as a market? If you're just to take Kenyan products and we feed them, and there's a time I gave you statistics. If a Danson wakes up and eats Kenyan breakfast, he might be spending $25 just in the morning alone. So if we replicate that across the diaspora and we feed to our Kenyan products alone, that's a huge amount of money in the country. So I'll say there are various ways we can support the government, and we are willing to do it's willing. We are willing to do it, but we're also asking them to do something for us. Yeah.
Make sure that you facilitate it.
Yeah.
Danson, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Dunstan Mukele is an IT expert and a policy strategist. He lives and works in Washington, D.C., USA. He's here in the country. He's coming to the studio to talk about the thing that he loves to talk about, Diaspora Affairs. He's a leader of Diaspora Association in the USA. We will keep having these conversations. We've also invited the PS for Diaspora Affairs to come and join us, and she's agreeable to that. She says, yeah, I just have a couple of engagements in the mornings, but when the opportunities presents itself, she will be here. All those issues that you've been raising, we'll actually now pass them on to her. Asante sana for joining us.
Thank you so much.